The tale begins in a daunting battleground, barely lit by the glow of a half-moon. Two armies advance towards each other, humans armed with halberds, versus golems, almost beast-like magical creatures. A bloody war takes place between the two armies until only two mages remain in a duel, identifying themselves as the Saber of Red and the Saber of Black. Scene shifts a few days prior, when Shishigo, a man with an intimidating demeanor and a prominent scar on the side of his face, walks down a hallway of a building. He asks to be guided to the office of Mr. Rocco, who heads the Department of Summoning. In the office, Rocco discusses the previous Holy Grail War in Fuyuki with much eagerness. Rocco explains how such a war occurs between two factions, the Masters of Red versus the Masters of Black. The events lead to the summoning of 7 heroes from the past as servants, under the command of 7 masters of each faction, to combat until only one of them remains. The winner is granted all his wishes by the Greater Grail, a gateway linked to the robot and the ultimate prize for the Fuyuki Holy Grail War. Rocco talks about the Greater Grail, which disappeared in the previous Holy Grail War, due to which the war remained unconcluded, having been found in the possession of Darnik Prestone Yid Millennia, a member of the Mage Clan of Romania. Shishigo is then offered the place of the 7th Master of Red in the upcoming Holy Grail War, which he happens to accept with a mysterious certainty. Darnik, on the other hand, being a gifted mage and a Master of Black, has already summoned Solomon ibn Gabriel, the Master of Golems, as his servant. He is preparing an army of golems to use in the upcoming battle. Later, somewhere in a gloomy cemetery, Shishigo summons his servant Mordred, the only legitimate successor of Arthur Pendragon, the King of Knights. Handcuffed to the armor of a soldier on horseback on a dispirited day on May 1431, a young woman in white is dragged down the streets. As the insulting chants from the crowd around her grow louder than ever, she is taken down to the pyre and burned to death as people continue to slander her for being a witch. The scene shifts to a very same woman in present times as she packs her bags and sets off on her journey to Trifas, Romania. She belongs to the ruler class. She is the arbitrator of the Holy Grail War. Meanwhile, in Trifas, the summoned servants of Black gather in the court of Darnik. They are discouraged from revealing their true names. Everyone in the court kneels down before Vlad Tepes, the former warlord of Romania and the Lancer of Black, who vows to emerge victorious after the war. In the cemetery, as he inspects Mordred, Shishigo is taken aback. He certainly didn't expect his summoned servant to be a woman. Surprisingly, Mordred doesn't seem to enjoy being referred to as a woman. She tells him that her only objective is to draw the sword of selection, as the knights of her father, King Arthur, once did. She also tells him that her father didn't approve of her as his successor, which resulted in her committing treason against him. Outside and inside of Yid Delania Citadel, master-servant pairs of Black faction prepare themselves for the upcoming war. Fior Foued Dil Millennia, the master of the Archer of Black, sits across from her servant, who explains to her that the surviving masters of the Holy Grail War will, in due course, conduct a final war to find the final victor. She asks her if she will confront her brother, Collis, in a battle if such a situation arises. Fiore tells him he is superior to her brother and that she will undoubtedly win against him. Shishigo and Mordred, on the other hand, are unexpectedly met with an army of homunculi and golems sent by Darnik. But to Darnik and Vlad's surprise, the army is effortlessly annihilated by them in a matter of a few minutes. The mages of the Yid Millennia family continue to stop by to see the homunculi at different hours, who exist unconsciously in their supply pods. These homunculi are artificial humans embedded with magical circuits. Quite unexpectedly, one of the homunculi regains his consciousness and escapes his pod. His small, frail body appears to not be of much use as he finds his way out of the homunculi chamber. In the hallway, the homunculi falls to the ground and his limbs go weak. Luckily, Astolfo, Rider of Black, while walking down the hallway, discovers him crashing on the ground and, without making a show of it, takes him to his room. He makes up his mind to look after him. The homunculi could perhaps be the reactor core that the Master of Golems had been seeking for a long time. The scene shifts to the ruler, Jean d'Arc, who had just arrived in Trifas. Without notice, she is confronted by the Lancer of Red, who comes to kill her. He is the heroic spirit Karna. Jean, the ruler, tells him that she is the adjudicator of the Holy Grail War. She asks him why he intends on killing her, even though it's a violation of the rules of the war. Karna tells her that he is only following the orders of his master and will gain no personal benefit in doing so. Just as Karna attacks her, a servant of Black magically appears and interjects. Subsequently, his master, Gordes Yid Millennia, appears and introduces himself to the ruler. Gordes attempts to win the ruler over to their side, but the attempts fail as the ruler refuses all his offers. Siegfried, Gortys' servant and Karna confront each other in a duel which remain unconcluded. Meanwhile, at the heart of Trifas, in a catacomb, Shishigo and Modred receive a message. The Berserker of Red is headed towards the castle of Yid-Millennia. The Berserker of Red is met with a bunch of gigantic golems as he approaches the castle of Yid-Millennia, but he is quick in knocking them off. Atlanta, the Archer of Red, and Achilles, the Rider of Red, act as his stand-ins. After the golems are annihilated, Astolfo is sent to combat the Berserker. Subsequently, all the servants of Black arrive at the scene. Together they finish off the Berserker of Red. Next, in order to sever his path and form a pact with the Berserker, Darnik asks the servants of Black to assist him. The Saber, Siegfried, and the Berserker of Black are then sent to tackle Achilles, the Rider of Red, just as Gortys orders Siegfried to use his noble phantasm to defeat Achilles. Darnik appears before him. He gets infuriated at the sight of Gortys sending foolish orders to Siegfried. He immediately instructs Siegfried to retreat and return back to the castle. Chiron, the Archer of Black, then takes Siegfried over, while Atlanta handles the Berserker of Black. Soon both sides retreat and the combat terminates. Inside the castle, Astolfo manages to escort him out. The Masters of Red are, at once, informed of their fleeing. Siegfried and Gortys are sent after them. Astolfo tries to hold Siegfried back and tells the homunculus to hurry away and live his life while he can. The ruler meanwhile senses a fight happening between the same faction. She reaches the scene and is startled to see that Gortys has attacked the poor homunculi boy. As if a revelation is sent to him, Siegfried remembers that his wish was to save and protect somebody's life without having been asked to. By virtue of it, he sacrifices his life in order to save the boys. He pulls his very alive and beating heart out of his chest and transfers it to the boy's stiff body. As he breathes his last, Siegfried makes a plea to the ruler to always protect the boy regardless of what it takes. The almost lifeless body of the homunculi boy is brought back to life as he starts to regain his consciousness and takes a look around to find Astolfo and the ruler huddled over him. It dawns on him that he was given another chance at life by the heroic conduct of Siegfried. He realizes that Siegfried sacrificed himself so that he could continue to live. He senses his body, and more importantly, his limbs rejuvenate. Vlad and Darnik, accompanied by the servants, come along. Vlad, on inspecting the situation, goes livid. Losing his saber is a tough blow. Very predictably, Astolfo is locked up for his involvement in the whole affair. The ruler, fulfilling her oath, takes the boy away with her. On their way, he names himself Sig, in honor of Siegfried. The ruler tells him that on her summoning, she couldn't construct a physical shape for herself, so it led to her borrowing a young girl's body with her consent. She also shares how this Holy Grail War appears to be quite different from the ones that occurred in the past due to the persistent occurrence of unusual events. Sig asked if it was possible that whatever events took place surrounding his life could perhaps also account to the abnormality of the war. Ruler, however, falsely denied the possibility of that. She tells him that the life he is given is chosen by him and is his to live, and that there is nothing more woeful than having one's life controlled by someone else. Although in one of her visions she saw him fighting like a warrior in the Holy Grail War, she keeps this information from him in order to protect his life and drops him off at shelter with the suggestion to never return to Trifas and to lead an ordinary human life. In the castle of Yid-Millennia, Gortys is seized by immense rage over the death of Siegfried. Meanwhile, in the catacombs, Shishigo receives a message. She must travel to Sigi Sohara. This is exactly where Fiore, along with her brother Collis, is headed to find Jack the Ripper. The eerie red glow of the sky very conveniently reflects the warfare occurring below on the battlefield. Bodies fully covered in armor keep piling up, and amidst them stands Mordred in all her glory. She knocks off anyone who tries to confront her and calls out to King Arthur. She asks him the reason why he did not relinquish the throne to her. Arthur finally speaks up and tells her that she is not capable of being the king, and with a strong wave of his sword, kills Mordred at the spot. Shishigo wakes up with a jolt. He takes a glance at Mordred, who's innocently playing with a cat. It takes him a second to gather his bearings after the strange dream. He remembers they are in Sigi Sohara, and they head out for breakfast. TV reporters and newspapers around the city all bear the same news: unearthly serial killings. He gets a call and is informed that all these killings were none other than the mages stationed at Sigi Sohara. In Millennia Citadel, Vlad and Darnik chew over the ongoing events. Vlad suggests that if they could sacrifice a powerful mage of their clan, the loss of their saber and the homunculus will become insignificant. After pondering over it for a bit, Darnik suggests Gortys' name. Subsequently, in Sigi Sohara, Shishigo and Mordred buckle up to come to blows with the servant who is responsible for all the mysterious serial killings, Jack the Ripper, the assassin of Black, who in turn steps out to hunt Shishigo. As the two sides come face to face, a nasty fight ensues. Mordred tackles Jack the Ripper, while Shishigo combats Fiore Yid-Millennia. Chiron, the Archer of Black, also participates in this encounter. encounter. As the fighting continues, Shishigo manages to disarm Fiore and then runs her over with a car. Shishigo manages to knock Fiore off. He shoots, but the bullets never reach her as they are intercepted by Calls, who has also come to his sister's defense. Both Shishigo and Fiore are surprised to see him there. Shishigo inquires if he is Callis, Forvege, Yud Millennia of Black. Callis attests to it. Meanwhile, Chiron tries to corner Modred, but he gets cornered instead. He realizes that they are at a disadvantage and so calls for Fiore to retreat. She agrees, and they retreat before the fight could be concluded. Fiore, on reaching a safe spot, tells Callis off for irresponsibly turning up to rescue her. She tells him that if they don't abide by the commands of Darnik, they will fail to emerge victorious. Regardless, she thanks him for saving her life. Scene shifts to a wounded Jack the Ripper. On her arms is completely wrapped in a band-aid. Her mother inquires her well-being over the dinner table. She offers her a leftover mage heart, which she, Jack, joyfully devours. Immediately, all her wounds heal. Her mother thereafter promises to take her to Trifas, so she can feast on as many mage hearts as she wants. The next day, Ruler reaches Sighi Soara. She inspects the surroundings and goes around looking for someone. She reaches a church, and just as she steps inside, shackles emerge from the ground and seize her. Using her power, she frees herself from the shackles. A vision occurs and she sees a dark man. Her instinct tells her that she must meet him. In the shelter, Sig remains troublesome. He is unsure of what he wants to do with his life and what freedom means to him. It seems that if there's some constraint to his wishes, he takes his time to figure out what he really wishes for. Later in the Citadel, Vlad orders Darnik to prepare their defenses as they expect an attack. All the servants of Red, on the other hand, gather in the court of the Empress of Assyria. They are prepared to invade the Citadel. In the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, which is an airborne castle, they approach the Citadel. Both the armies come face to face on the battlefields of Trifas. Sig, finally figuring out what he wishes to do, buckles up to leave the shelter to participate in the ensuing war. Lancer of Black, Vlad III is the hero who protected Romania from many invasions of the Ottoman Empire in his previous life. Mehmed II, who never feared anyone except God, was terrified of Vlad's brutality. Thus, in Romania, the reputation of Vlad III happens to be leagues above the rest. People's admiration for him is the biggest strength as a servant, and the battlefield is his domain. Against all the servants of Red, Vlad's victory is certain. In the opening scenes of the war, Atlanta requests the divine protection of Apollo and Artemis as she launches her attack. She manages to overwhelm a large number of homunculi. Achilles leads the charge after her. The priest, Master of Red, on the other hand, sees a vision. He sees the ruler approaching the battlefield in Trifas. He infers that the course of war will very much depend on how these visions are interpreted. Vlad and Karna come eye to eye. The moment Achilles takes a clear look at his opponent, he's taken aback. Chiron was his teacher and master in the previous life. The realization is heart-wrenching for him, but he must not let these emotions cloud his judgment. He must not show any mercy. As soon as Sig reaches the battleground, he goes to the aid of his fellow homunculi. He manages to rescue her and tell her that the lives of the homunculi are not in vain. He convinces her to accompany him as he covertly takes his way inside the Citadel. Simultaneously, the priest makes his mind to go into the war. He wants to test if his wishes to the Holy Grail are just, and if they are, he's bound to come out triumphant. In the battlefield, he manipulates the Berserker of Black to form an alliance with him in the war. The end, for now. Subscribe to the channel because part 2 is on the way.